Hello, men. This is your host, Ryan Stephen Green speaking. Here at Moustache Blade, we work hard to bring you content that is both informative and entertaining. And boy, are we thrilled by your patronage. If our humble efforts here are met well by your aural proclivities, we'd like to hear about it. Rate our podcast on iTunes, and for good measure, leave us a review. Let us know you're listening. We thank you. Moustache and Blade!
Welcome to the Moustache and Blade podcast, a show dedicated to all things facial fur and traditional wet shaving in an effort to create global facial awareness. And now, here are your hosts, Douglas Smythe and Ryan Stephen Green.
And I am, in fact, Douglas Smythe, and with me as always,
Ryan Stephen Green.
Today's show is brought to you by How to Grow Mustache Store, where, if you go there now, you can see that we just launched our first safety razor, the S42, the Synergy 42 safety razor, a tribute to the color-tipped Gillettes of yesteryear, some of my favorite, and the same shaving quality as one of my other favorites, the Merkur 1904. It's a hefty little razor that feels good in the hand and good on the face. Check that out today, people. Purple tip. That's at howtogrowmustachestore.com. And thank you. Well, today's show, we will be interviewing Robert Carey of Zen Shave. So this, in effect, will be another show dedicated to all things brushes. We will also have GD Carrington popping in to drop some knowledge on you, and Ryan again with some more acronyms.
Absolutely.
And me with my own little brush tutorial. If you have any questions for us and would possibly like to hear them answered on air, please leave your message at 347-333-1511. Also, if being played on air is not your cup of tea, as they say, you may want to email us. You can email me, Douglas, at Moustache and Blade, or Ryan at Moustache and Blade. Also, if you have any questions for our razor doctor, Matt Pisarcik, don't hesitate to call this number yet again, 347-333-1511. If you have a vintage razor that needs a little love, and it's something that you'd like to take care of on your own, but you need a little help getting by in this matter, please contact us, 347-333-1511. And we'll get Matt, our razor doctor, on that immediately. Okay, and on to the show. And welcome to yet another tutorial with Douglas Smythe from howtogrowmustache.com. How you doing, folks? I'm still working on a title for my little segment here, but bear with me. Today, in keeping with today's theme, this will be about brushes. Yet again, about brushes. We're going to mix it up, though, a little. It is cold out now. A lot of people may be traveling on holiday. Maybe people just got back from traveling, in fact. But, and I'm sorry about that I didn't get these tips to you sooner. But these are travel tips for your brush. I know it's tough to travel with your favorite brush. You don't want to, for one, you don't want to risk losing it. You don't want to risk damaging it. But we're going to get around that today. You could be smarter than me and just choose a nice synthetic brush that you don't really have to worry about so much in keeping it in your travel kit. But for those of us like me, a little thick-headed, I bring one of my favorite brushes. It's a boa brush that I really enjoy. Great backbone, and it's soft enough. It's a vintage Crabtree and Evelyn. Just one of my favorite brushes. Great at home and great on the road. How do I get around not killing this brush during travel? Well, sit back and learn. First off, the fastest way to kill your brush is traveling with it. If it's an organic protein-based filament, it's going to die fast. If you're moving from hotel to motel without giving it ample time to dry in between these moves and just throwing it back into your travel kit, which probably is a leather travel kit, which probably is the best environment for breeding funky smell on your brush as well as funky living organisms. So that being said, most hotels and motels these days have a hairdryer in there. Use that hairdryer. That hairdryer is your friend. What I do is I put the toilet seat down, I sit there, hairdryer between my legs, on a cool setting, low setting, pointing up, and I brush the bristles up against the palm of my hand while I'm blowing it, and this dries it off relatively fast and thoroughly. So give that a try. You don't have to do it my method. You can just blast it with one hand, but make sure you do until it's dry. Give it a test over the back of your hand just to see if it's dry. And then you can throw it back in the kit. But before you do, please don't throw it in a Ziploc bag. I don't think Ziploc bags are the way to go here. It needs to be in a breathable bag. And even before that, what I do, or what I've done in the past, is I've gone to a hardware store and picked up some 1¼ inch PVC pipe. And I have them cut it at 3 inches for me. Once the brush is dry, I tuck it into this tube. And this protects it from bumping around, from the bristles getting bent. And when it's time to use it again, I just push it up the tube like a push pop, and I'm good to go. You could just stick this in your travel kit as is, but you could be also on vacation. You could also have a lot of stuff in that bag, small particles, sand from the beach that you don't want getting in the bristles. So it is important to tuck it into something. But rather than an easy Ziploc bag, pick up a mesh bag, a fine mesh bag, like a nylon mesh bag. Some of these come with like skiing goggles or wrist guards. Then there are also laundry delicates bags that your significant other may be hip to and can point out to you. These are for the laundry. You want to protect, you throw them in this delicates bag and throw it in the wash and forget about it. Those are almost perfect. Fine mesh bags. So take your brush, stick it in the tube, stick it in the mesh bag, and then put it in your travel kit, and you're good to go. This is what I've done for years. What I just now realized is if you can find a round deodorant tube, pop off the bottom once it's empty, cut the raising rod in there, and then pop the bottom back on. Hopefully it'll pop back on. If it doesn't, no worries. But if it does, great, because now you unscrew the cap of the deodorant, stick your dry brush in there, screw the cap back on, and you're good to go. No need for a bag, no need for nothing, as long as it's dry. If you are afraid that your brush is still moist and whatnot, or might be moist in the future, you can put some holes in the top. But this works great for a little traveling container for your brush. So that brings us to my last tip. And this tip I learned the hard way. It's about leaving something behind in a hotel. Never fun, never cool. When you realize something's missing, priorities in your life suddenly change. You start making phone calls to everyone who works for this hotel, and you never find it. I've lost a lot of stuff this way. And usually, or in the past, it's been phone chargers. Phone chargers, they just escape me. I'm pretty sure, like sunglasses, they have legs, and they just get up and walk away. So what I started doing with my phone charger, there's a crossover here, so bear with me. What I started doing with my phone charger is I wrap it around the suitcase. I wrap around the handle of my suitcase, rather. Then I plug it into the wall, and then I plug it into my phone. This way, there is no way I am going to forget the charger. And I haven't so far. So there's a little travel tip on the side for you. Now, let's bring this over into the wet shaving world. How does this relate? I'll tell you how it relates, and I think you can already figure out how it relates. It's so easy to forget a brush, especially when you're distracted with kids, the holidays. You know, you may be at a hotel for a week, 3 days, the weekend. So you've been leaving your brush on the sink, letting it dry. And that's fine. But what I recommend you do is pick up some O-rings. That's right, we're going back to O-rings again. Find an O-ring that fits snug over the handle of your brush. And then pick up, and you may already have this, a dog tag chain. And I don't mean like Fido's collar. I mean like a GI dog tag chain. A ball-linked chain, some people call it. Pick up a long one of those and attach that to the O-ring on the brush, and then attach the other end to your travel kit, to one of the handles on there. And in between shaves, while you're letting the brush dry, just make sure it's attached there. And then there will be no way you are going to leave your brush behind. Okay, I hope that helps out, folks. I hope that saves a lot of you the pain and misery that so many of us have gone through while traveling and wet shaving in the past. Thank you for tuning in to another tutorial with Douglas Smythe, and I will be talking to you again soon on next week's show. Carry on, and happy shaving, and now to you, GD.
Gary Carrington for Moustache Blade. Hot water lather is a wonderful thing. It's wonderful to apply hot lather, unless you're a proponent of cold water shaving, of course. But there is a tendency for people to think if something is good, more of it's even better. But in heat, that's not necessarily true. The heat of the brush should not really be above 140 degrees for several reasons. Number one, the epoxies and glues many times that the brush manufacturers set may not be rated much higher than 160 or 170 degrees. So if you're using boiling water, you would literally begin to tear away or erode the knot base because you're exceeding the maximum thermal limits of the glues or epoxies. That would begin to cause hairs to fall out. Number two, for a natural brush, the hairs would begin to curl and split, and it would really begin to cause long-term damage to the brush. In addition, hot water can also be very hazardous to you. If it's hotter than 140 degrees, of course, it can cause scalding and burns. One of the rules of thumb is if you can't keep your hand in the hot water for 4, 5, 6 seconds, if you have to pull it away because it's too hot for your brush. And let's face it, we all want to extend the life of our brushes. So one of the things that's really important is if you use a hot pot, be sure to mix the hot water with cooler water so that you'll be able to basically temper the water. If you have your hot water heater, please keep it set around no more than about 140 degrees, 120 to 140 max. Hopefully that will preserve not only your skin, but your brushes for a long time to come.
And now, with more, here's Ryan.
Time for today's batch of wet shaving acronyms. PSO, pre-shave oil. This too is part of my daily regimen of shaving, thanks to Ian Kane, the village barber. He sent me a bottle of his shaving oil, and while I have tried it as the sole provider of lubrication for a shave, and that works. I know that Ian is a big proponent of, shaving with oil. I myself find that the lather on top of the oil is a very nice and smooth and unguent smelling experience. So I'm a fan of the PSO, the pre-shave oil. Moving right along, SE, single edge. I myself have not used a single edge safety razor. I have used a straight razor, my great-grandfather's straight razor, restored and honed for me by the inimitable and talented Lynn Abrams, but I have not yet used a single-edge safety razor. SOTD, shave of the day. Some of you participate in this phenomenon. I myself do not. My shave of the day is pretty uniform. I'm not a great collector of product, although I do try the product that comes my way. So my shave of the day is almost always the same as it was the day before. But if you're interested, it typically consists of course, a shower or a hot towel applied to the face, followed by the applying of a pre-shave oil in the form of the shaving oil from the village barber, followed by lathering up my Synergy shaving soap, Cavendish scented. I do a face lather. Following the lather, I use a DE safety razor, a vintage one specifically, a 1955 Gillette red tip, given me by your friend and mine, Douglas Smythe. And I've been going through the process of trying out different blades for my Gillette red tip. So I've tried out maybe close to a dozen at this point. And my favorite so far is Rapira. So after my shave, I will apply either bay rum, that is Captain's Choice bay rum, if I'm feeling particularly saucy or masculine that day. On a normal day, I'll use Village Barber's aftershave balm, which is a most singular experience. The scent is like nothing I have ever experienced in life. I've said this elsewhere, but I can describe it in no other way than it's like applying Narnia to my face. There's one more step in there that I failed to mention, and that is after my shave, I actually do go for the CWR, cold water rinse, prior to applying the Village Barber aftershave balm. This has been yours truly, Ryan Stephen Green.
It's your old pal Jedediah Smith again. I'm a pretty loyal fella. Been using the same truck for over 40 years. Been going to the same barber since I was in a booster seat. And been drinking the same whiskey since I was a baby. The same goes for my shaving soap. I've been using Synergy for a while now. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the way it's gonna stay. Synergy shaving soap keeps my skin protected with its all natural ingredients. It keeps my wallet full because of its affordable price. You can find out about Synergy shaving soap and more at howtogrowamustachestore.com. Well, Time to get my dinner.
On with the show. Hey, so welcome to the show, Robert Carey.
Thanks very much. Glad to be here.
Yes, it's great to have you on, Robert. We've been
Zen
very
Shave.
excited about this.
You see immediately why Doug often handles the intro to the show, but you know what? It's on record. That's the one we're using today.
Perfect.
Rob, I first want to say, going to your website is like, wow, I want pretty much everything on it.
That's very flattering. Very nice of you to say. Thank you.
How did this all start? I mean, how do you get into brush making?
So I suspect I got into it in a similar manner that most people in the wet shaving get into it. So, I mean, like most of us, I've had years of terrible shaves. I'm 42 years old, thereabouts, and I think I've switched back and forth between electrics and 5 blades, 4 blades in my whole life, trying to find an irritation-free shave. And about 2 years ago, now in the real world, I'm a graphic designer, web designer for a tech company, so sort of digital, hands-on, I guess is a way to put it. But about 2-3 years ago, my wife gave me for Christmas a Pro Rezo white tub and an Omega boar brush from Shoppers Drug Mart, which is the Walgreens of Canada, I guess is one way to look at it. And I mean, instantly I was hooked on that. It was an improvement over the Kangoo that everybody uses. It was a revelation. And I think within a month of that, I'd gone out and bought a Merkur, and promptly cut myself fairly severely. The first shave, I think that's pretty common.
What blades were you using?
It was a Merkur blade that came with it.
Okay, the one that comes with the pat. Yeah,
I did a little bit of looking around. Some posts on that How to Shave Like Your Grandfather. That one blog post that everybody seems to find.
Oh, the automatically.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, and so I followed some of their guidelines. But I mean, quite quickly thereafter, I was I had my technique down. Shaves were better than they've ever been in my life. And I'm not the kind of person who does anything halfway. So I gradually transitioned into, I've always wanted to get back into woodworking as a younger man. I did a little bit of dabbling with it, and this seemed like a really good, it was an extension of my hobby. My rad was out of control, so I needed something else. You should see my razor collection. It's really terrible. Like I've recently started selling off my spares because it's obscene. It's very obscene.
No, I get it completely.
Yeah. So, and I needed to show my wife that money was going to come in and not just keep going out on more razors to display in my cabinet. So I bought a lathe. I'm thinking, and when I was younger, I'd used a lathe a little bit, and I thought, well, I'll get another one. I need a hobby, and not doing anything halfway. Got it. And I slowly realized, wow, you can't just do this with a lathe. You need this chuck and you need these tools. And it
like anything else.
A new collection began.
Sub collections.
TAD, I guess tool acquisition disorder, maybe.
Yes, TAD. I like that.
And it just ballooned from there. But I mean, so while I didn't really anticipate the expenditure of getting into it, once I did get all these tools into place, it was great. And I found I kind of had a knack for the woodworking.
It's amazing. I mean, it's really inspiring too. This is only over the course of 2 years now?
About 2 years, getting back into woodworking. I guess I did a little bit when I was younger, but probably not much more than, some high school shop class and a little bit of work.
Yeah, no, it's super inspiring. You definitely have a knack for it, to say the least.
Thanks. Yeah. So the one thing that inspired me to get into it too is there's so many. I mean, it's funny. The first time I listened to your podcast was the last one with GD Carrington, because I recognized his name, and I was like, oh, I've seen him around the forums. I'd like to hear that. And then so when he threw my name out in the podcast, I was blown away, especially in the company that he put me in there with, Rudy Vay and Rodney. Both of those guys were inspirations to me getting into this. I mean, I love their work. Rod Neep in particular, I think he inspired me to try to do a little bit more detail and something a little bit beyond the smooth acrylics that a lot of people do. And I have turned some acrylics, but I'm not a big fan of it. It's messy. It makes the shop smell.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. And I have a love of wood too. The certain exotic woods, they're all beautiful. They're no two pieces are alike, and they come from different parts of the world. I've actually been making an effort to try to acquire some historic woods too. So every now and then pieces of shipwrecks come up. And there was some wood not that long ago that I really could not afford, but it would have been awesome. It was pieces of one of the original 13 trees that George Washington grew on his property. I guess it fell, and they harvested it under very strict conditions and put up for sale about one tiny piece of wood for that, like for a pen. was about $150, and you had to sign a certificate telling them what your intent was with it. They wanted to make sure somebody would make something obscene with George Washington's tree. So, but that kind of thing fascinates me, the history and the international parts of the wood, I guess.
Can we just go back to that for a second? Like,
sure.
What happened? How did that fall through? Because that is like, I mean, a shaving brush or handle made from one of George Washington's trees. I mean, that is something right there.
Isn't it, though? Yeah. So the reason that didn't fall apart was, one, the price of it. But more importantly was this, they had cut it into what are called pen blank sizes. So they were only about 0.75 inch square by about 5 inch tall. So to make a brush, I'd have to get 5 or 6 of them, laminate them together.
Right.
And it probably wouldn't have looked very good, but I would have loved to do it. So that kind of thing would have been great. I've also seen pieces of wood from like the Lusitania, I think it was a shipwreck. One of those came up for sale. And I recently I do pens as well and some other things like that.
I've seen the handles, the razor handles as well. Those beautiful.
Oh, I'd love to do more of those. I'm still on the lookout. Maybe you guys can help me out. I'm on the lookout for a good supplier of quality DE razor heads only. Like, I've contacted Parker a few times, but I can't seem to get a hold of anybody who can give me the heads and
they don't do, I mean, Parker, they outsource.
Yeah.
We can talk afterwards, but I might be able to help you there.
Yeah, maybe somebody can reach out to me through the podcast.
Definitely. If there's anyone listening out there that also has any antique wood or connections to that and want to send it over to Robert, maybe he can donate to charity or something like that. But if anyone's listening, we're looking for this.
Yeah. So those handles that I've got on there now, it's again sort of coming back to the historic nature of those. I really liked those ones because I acquired a whole bunch of necks and ball ends from 1910s and 20 old type ball ends. Gillets.
Yeah.
And they were, I got them relatively cheap, but I had a guy replate them in nickel, and then those were really easy to fit on certain pieces of wood. So you get a little bit of old, a little bit of new, something different. And this whole shaving thing has become an out of control hobby for me. So if it's anything to do with it, I'm working on it in some way, shape, or form.
It sounds like you're living out the story that we've heard so many times, is that it became a hobby, it consumed my life, and eventually I quit my job and, started making money at it. Or
it's funny, I'm actually at my real job right now, and most of my coworkers were ribbing me today that, they wanted to sit and watch me do this interview. How long till I'm quitting the job? And I'm like, for me, it's funny. I don't really have any aspirations of doing it for a living. I think when I retire, it'll become a very nice thing for me to do. But I found, and this has been sort of an unexpected bonus for me, my real job is a digital guy. I build websites, I build all kinds of things in the electronic world. I've been doing that for 20 years now, and I like to think I'm good at it. But I also know that it sometimes gets a little bit stale. I feel like I'm doing a lot of the same thing over and over again. The company I work for, Sandvine, it's a great company. I've been here 11 years, love the people, but the logo is always going to be green.
Now, if you want, just keep your voice down a little bit while you say these things. We don't want to get anybody fired during today's episode.
Yeah, no problem. They're actually
maybe we're doing you a service if we do.
Yeah, no, the people here I work with, they're all really supportive. There's a great family here, but
well, here's something to think about, Robert. So you're doing electronics as well. You're doing razor handles and brush handles. Is there any way to incorporate an MP3 player inside a handle so I can listen to my podcast while I shave?
You might be onto something there.
I might be on something rather.
Yeah, it could be both ways. Yeah, but when I started getting back into the woodworking, I found a really excellent side effect is it sort of reinvigorated me in my regular work. It seems like, going into more analog prospects and working on things completely removed, but still creative. I'm a creative guy. I got to be building, tinkering things. It's been a huge plus to me. I've had more energy to devote to my other job, my wife and my kids. It's nice that I do get more time in the quiet garage. I have 3 women living in my house, and I can tell you, man, some days.
Yeah, I grew up like that.
Yeah.
So it's like an equilibrium that you've achieved. It's balance. Is this where the name comes from, Zen Shave?
It actually is a part of that. And so, a few other things that led me down that path is I started to realize, wow, this is a very calming thing for me, working with wood. I love it. It's relaxing. And there was a certain part of Zen to it. At the same time, coincidentally, a very good friend of mine, an old colleague, started up a yoga class and yoga training and meditational training thing. And I helped her out with building her website, whatnot, and she wanted to pay me. But I said, no, she's a very good friend of mine. So she said, well, I got to pay you something. So she gave me a little Buddha statue. And it's sort of, it's sitting on my desk right here at the office. And that sort of led me down the path, this whole sort of everything. The Zen aspects of shaving, everybody's aware of it. When you're doing it right, it's very relaxing. Nothing feels like good like a great shave. It's, you can be in a bad mood, have a great shave, come out the other side, and it's fantastic. So
well said. Well said. Yeah, it's as we've mentioned many times, it's like green tea ceremony.
Yeah.
For the
it's
face.
like yoga for the face.
Yeah, the aromatherapy. Yeah, absolutely.
And if there's any listeners out there that are laughing right now, you obviously haven't tried yoga or shaving. No,
Yeah.
You can also relate it to a good workout at the gym, just those endorphins rushing. When you're working out, it's the same like mindset. You're focused. You feel great afterwards. Jogging, it can be related to jogging as well, where it's time to yourself. You can think of a million things. You can work out stuff as you're doing it. It's these are all Zen principles.
Totally.
I'm just trying to tie it into the Western world.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Go on.
Oh, no. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and one of the other things, it's funny how I got to your podcast is I've started sort of doubling up on my Zen while I'm doing the shaving brushes. I listen to podcasts.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so Joe Rogan's podcast, I don't know if you've ever listened to his podcast. He's he's used to be the host of Fear Factor, and he also does voiceover or color commentary for UFC fights, that kind of thing. But he's got a very popular podcast that's just excellent. I mean, he covers a broad range of subjects basically the theme around his podcast is how to be a better person, how to live a better life, and that kind of thing. Sometimes it goes off into the bizarre and obscure, the aliens and UFOs and squatching and that kind of thing. But,
Oh, just like us. We take it there as well. You heard our first episode, right?
Yeah, so I listened to that, and then I thought, oh, well, wow, there's a shaving podcast. And when I saw GD Carrington's name, I recognized, you put you right in my queue. So, and I can't tell you how awesome it was to hear my name on that. It was kind of surreal because he comes on and he mentions those two guys, and I was like, oh, that's great. It would have been nice. I wonder if he's seen my stuff because he sort of came full circle, came back around to it, and he said my name. I was like, unbelievable. That's fantastic.
He says hi, by the way. I talked to him last night.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, you're going to have Robert on. I thought you guys were good friends.
No, I've seen him on the forums. He's commented on some of the posts I make. So, I mean, this is, like I said, it's as much a hobby as it is for me a business. I mean, basically, as long as people want to keep paying me and I can add tools to my garage and do it, I mean, we're doing each other favors. You're buying my brush and I'm exercising in a need to scratch a certain itch, I guess. But yes. I didn't know him outside of that. But after he did that, I sent him an email. He's getting a brush. I've been sending him a brush with my name.
We bring people together here at Moustache and Blade.
I feel like we need to have like a Moustache and Blade like hoedown or gathering of some sort where we invite all of the former guests and related people and stuff.
A meet and greet.
Yeah, because stories like this where we're connecting people, it's amazing. I mean, who would have thought? Like we just roll, Skype and our hand recorders here, and all of a sudden we're, making friends all over the place. Pretty amazing.
It is an amazing thing, especially. I mean, you guys, I'm sure, have noticed that there's some bizarre aspect to this hobby that everybody that I've actually dealt with all seem to be, exceedingly decent human beings and true gentlemen. I mean, which is sometimes out of the ordinary on the internet. You see, read any comments on any YouTube post or something else, and sometimes you think, is there hope for humanity? But I mean, clearly, if we could just introduce everybody to shaving, there'd be world peace.
Yeah, well said. Well, what I'd like to do, this is my dream anyways, and it might not be so off the charts, so to speak, and there's a pun in there once I explain it. I want to do a wet shaving cruise, like a 3-day cruise, and we invite everybody from the industry and sell tickets for, shavers as well. 3 days. I don't know where we'd go in 3 days and back, but I think it'd be really neat. We could do like
Does it really matter where we go?
It doesn't at all. You're right. But everyone I've approached with this idea is like, yeah, well, and it's like, no, it's the same thing as a convention, just on the water. We can do this, people.
I think the tough part of that, though, is convincing my wife that I'm going on a cruise, either with her or without her. If I told her we're going on a shaving cruise, she's going to give me the look that I'm insane again. And if I told her I was going without her, that would probably be even worse. So
Yeah, well, the thing is, maybe I'm being a little selfish here. I just really need a vacation, and the only way I can justify this is if I tie it in with work somehow. So that's what's really going on here.
I can't say as I'd be in for sure, but if you do queue it up, make sure you send me the invite, because I'll definitely try to sell it. I can even tell her it's important because I'm networking for
Exactly.
Business, yeah.
It's a write-off. I'm telling you, we can make this happen.
Part social, part trade show, part making good on Matt's idea of drinking beer and shaving at the same time.
Yeah. Another observation, what I want to make, what's different about this industry is what's going on here, I find more often than not, is the owners and the people starting out these businesses, it isn't usually entrepreneurs. I hate the word entrepreneur. To me, that cheapens what I do. If you ever call me an entrepreneur, I'm going to smack you. And I'm not really that violent. But because, it cheapens it. When you say entrepreneur, that means someone that could have sold anything just to make a quick buck. What we do, this is by accident. This is by mistake. This is very Zen. We kind of fell into this path, and we're making it work for us, making people happy and making some money that live on as well. That's not entrepreneurship, that's passion. And that's what's different with a lot of people in this industry, I find.
That's true. I now that you said it, even the stores that I've gone to, so I've had the pleasure of being able to visit West Coast Shaving when I was in LA, and also Men Essentials near Toronto. I've met the owners of both those places, and they seem to have a passion for it. I mean, they're running fairly large businesses in this industry, and both of them, knew exactly what they were selling, and they were able to answer questions, but not just from a sales. They were very enthusiastic about it as well. I mean, Seth in particular at Men Essentials, that guy's passionate wet shaver. And I like that. I agree. I like that thing that we're not just, trying to make a living or a buck. This is about something we really enjoy.
Yeah, we couldn't have done this with anything else. And that's where we differ from entrepreneurs. So, people use that word way too easy these days. People even enjoy using that word. It's a buzz thing. But to me, whenever I hear someone call themselves an entrepreneur, I immediately not lose interest, but I put up walls like they're trying to sell me on something. And you'll see this sometimes. There's some people out there in this industry that do that. Like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. And no disrespect to you folks, but just think about what you're saying. To me as a consumer, I read that and it's like, oh, so you're just selling something to me that's passionless. There's no soul behind that act. I want someone like you, Robert. I want someone, that like Joe, from Italian Barber with passion behind it that couldn't have done anything else, really. And like all the other folks we've mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great.
I think you might be... Maybe this is an East Coast thing, because I have no hang-ups over the term entrepreneur. In fact, I love it. In LA, you have people that just talk a lot and do nothing. An entrepreneur at least is doing something.
Yes, but don't get me wrong. They're definitely doing something. They're doing something. They're creating a business for themselves. But I really feel like when you say I'm an entrepreneur, you could have done anything. You could have sold anything. This to me is more of an organic thing is what I'm speaking of, how you fell into this, and the motivation wasn't money, wasn't selling anything to make it big. It was your passion that landed you here, and that's the difference that I'm speaking of.
You do it because you have to.
Yeah, I mean, what else could you do? Yeah. I mean, you could work another job for someone else, but doing what you love isn't that what people usually go to school for?
Exactly. Well, the lucky ones, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we got here on our own path, and this is another back to Zen kind of moment here, and here we are.
I have a funny sort of, you saying LA again, how this sort of, you find that this hobby or life creeps into all areas of it. About once a year for the last 5 years, I go to LA for the Adobe conference, actually. And last year I was traveling with a colleague, and I always try to do some sightseeing when I'm in the area, and I think I've seen a pretty good part. But last year we went to the Queen Mary, which is a beautiful, very old ship in is it Long Beach? I think it is, or
Long Beach,
yeah. But I couldn't help it. I'm walking through this beautiful old ship, and there's all this nice woodworking, and I'm like, I wonder if they'll ever sell wood from the ship, and I can make brushes out of it. It's surreal. I'm like, oh, I'm trying to harvest the Queen Mary for shaving brushes. I don't think they'd like that very much, but if they ever go on the market, I'm there. It'd be awesome, a historic brush from the Queen Mary.
Oh no, totally. That's like walking around a hardware store as a soap maker. Everything becomes a soap mold to me. I'm like, oh, people have to hold me back, and I can imagine to a college kid, everything could become a bong.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, next time you're in LA, you have two things. You're going to come and visit me, and there's another wet shaving store in town, and it's in Pasadena, my hometown. It's called Old Town Shaving Company, so you have to check it out.
I will be back this October, early October. I come in, actually, again. definitely put you on my list for sure. Yeah.
Very nice.
The other thing I did recently, I just posted last night on Reddit. I've started trying to find, I think it was Rod Neep, who did some embedments in his razor brushes.
Oh, I was just going to bring that up. The Game of Thrones, is that what you're talking about?
You saw that one, yeah.
It's beautiful.
I don't think I've had more interest in a brush ever. There's quite a lot of post activity around it, so I think I'm going to try to look into more of those things. And those came to me while I was...
That was my first question I was going to ask you, actually.
I was browsing eBay, as I'm sure we all do on a regular basis, looking for wood. I buy wood blanks, and sometimes...
I'm always looking for wood. I'm usually drunk when I'm doing it.
I've stopped buying razors. So there are no more razors.
Yeah, no, don't eBay drunk.
Yeah. But I saw there's a company that makes these pewter buttons, for sewers and whatnot. And I saw those. I thought, well, I could slice the back off of those and put them in. They look fantastic. I just want to try to do more of those kind of things.
Oh, they're great. And it's almost like meta, because what you're doing design-wise is very like chess piece. There's that, and Game of Thrones is like Game of Kings, which is chess.
Yeah, I've had that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really it's meant to be. I mean, people need to check these out, and they are on your Facebook page, I believe.
Actually, they're really they are on my Facebook page. That's right. Yeah, and I posted them to Reddit as well. But I've literally only done two. One is for GD Carrington. It's got his name on it. And the other one was sort of a byproduct of that. So I haven't even put them up on my site for sale, but I've had a considerable amount of interest in it. So I'm going to have to buy more pins, it looks like.
Yeah, no, if anyone wants to see them, please check out Robert's Facebook page. That's Zen Shave. It's Facebook. Was it /
Zen Shave? Yeah, that's right. Yep. Thanks.
Yeah. Check that out. And these are beautiful pieces.
They're beautiful.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way my stuff works is I think it's probably similar to a lot of the other craftsmen. I don't, unless I'm making a custom order, I'm going to be making a brush anyways. So I'll be in the garage and turning it. And if it's not for somebody, it goes up on the website. So when somebody wants a brush, a custom order, I don't charge anymore. To me, it's like, whether it's for you or for somebody else, it's all the same.
Yeah.
And customizations, it's funny, you guys probably noticed this too. I've had a number of custom orders, since I started doing this, and it's almost 50-50. One is from some people who go, love your work, just surprise me, amaze me, so, which is great. I actually particularly like that, because my usual approach is I grab a block of wood, I put it on the lathe, and I have no plan other than usually the size of knot, so 24, 26, whatever, until I start turning that block of wood. It's almost like I let the wood sort of guide me. I'll do a couple of cuts, and then the shape it's almost like the shape is there, and I just kind of make it come out.
The sculptor releases the form.
Then there's the other half of the people who order the brushes who are unbelievably meticulous about this must be 52 millimeters long.
Oh, yeah.
And are you sure there's going to be I've literally had some conversations back and forth with people about, I leave a millimeter for glue, which is a very small amount of space, but they're like, I wanted a 24 millimeter hole. And I'm like, well, it's 24.5. So it's pretty close.
It's like there's a crossover there between like the design world, as you probably know too.
Yes.
You get those customers as well, where it's like they'll come to you that love your work, do it. I trust your opinion. This is your job. You know what you're doing. And then there's the other one that's like, we'll keep sending back the proof you sent them. And then here's a drawing my grandmother made based on what you did. But could you, and it's like, you don't even want to put your name on it when you're done. When you go to the mechanic, you don't tell him how to do his job, It's the same thing in the design world. And I can imagine with the brush world as well. Like, you know what you're doing. People need to trust you, put their faith in you. Make something beautiful for me.
So far, I definitely want to make sure people get what they want, especially those who are passionate about it. So far, I've been lucky. I guess I think people are happy with what I've given them. But I am acutely aware that, this is the world and the internet. At some point, somebody's not going to like it, and it's going to devastate me. Somebody's going to go, this isn't the correct color of Purple Heart or something like that. I'm like, hopefully that'll be a while away. Because I do take a lot of pride in this. This is a labor of love for me. So as long as everybody else feels the same way, we're good.
Yes, no doubt. Have you had any like really wacky, unique requests for brushes?
Yeah, well, I had one particular one, not so much wacky, but very unique, and it turned out beautifully. And it's funny, sometimes I don't even remember to photograph these things, and I wish I would. So this particular one was from, and this is great, I love how this worked out, my old college professor. Her son her son's fiance contacted me through Facebook because I'm friends with my college professor, and she'd seen some of the stuff I posted. So she had me make a brush for him, and he's a Latvian guy. He's from Latvia, a very proud Latvian guy. So she said, cool. Basically free range, but, make me something that screams Latvia, which, when you think of
Wikipedia,
I'm like, oh, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, oh, this is a tough one. So unfortunately, there's no great exotic woods in the Latvian region, but they do have lots of oaks, which can be a nice wood. So I found a very nice oak burl, and then I turned a couple of red stripes. And luckily, the Latvian flag is rather basic. It's 2 red stripes. So I turned 2 red stripes in it, and then I had her ship me a coin from Latvia from his birth year, and I bedded it in the base of it.
Nice.
So that one, personal brushes like that, I love that it means something to somebody, and it has some tie to the roots. So that particular part of it, I love doing those. I had another guy recently request, and I did take pictures of this one. It's on my Facebook page. If you go there, you probably know. Very bizarre shaped brush. It's like 4 inches long. It looks almost like my wife looked at it. She goes, "Are you making finials for the drape?" The things. I'm like, because it looks like that. I mean, no, but gotta think of it. Maybe there's a whole new market there I can get into. Now, with that said, I mean, he showed me.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah. He sent me pictures of this thing, and I'm like, I can probably make that shape. And I'm looking at it, going, that's weird.
What was it? He was photographing another brush handle?
Yeah, he had another brush handle of a similar shape, and he had a couple customizations to it. But so the whole time I'm turning this, going, that's just bizarre. With that said, when it was done, it felt incredible in the hand. So I have to give the guy props. I mean, as weird as it looked, the ball fit perfectly into the palm of the hand, and the finger grips were there. I mean, and to truth be told, I think probably one of my faults is I'm very rarely considering overall comfort when I'm doing my brushes. I mean, I definitely don't make them bricks or anything, but
right.
I'm never really thinking, well, the finger's going to go there and it has to be exactly this length. I'm trying to come up with a free-form shape, but this dude, he clearly knew how big his hand was and how it was going to fit, and it worked.
Do you find yourself evolving as a brush maker?
Yes.
I mean, a handle maker?
Yes, I hope I always do, actually. I mean, I guess those coins and the embedments are part of it. I'm always looking for some kind of detailing to put on there. I want to do some more combinations of woods. I particularly like, again, Rod Neep, how he's mixed some metals and acrylics. I love that look. I'm lacking some tools, but a good time. And clear out.
I'll talk to you next week about that. You'll have it in the garage.
As soon as I can convince my wife she doesn't need to park the car in the garage in minus 25 degree weather, and I can have her half of the garage as well as mine, we're all set.
That battle begins in the bathroom with shelf space. Yeah.
Now, with that said,
you want the garage too?
Are you guys married? I didn't ask you that. You are? Yeah. Have you converted your wives?
I have a girlfriend. Let's get that clear.
Yeah.
Yes, I have actually.
Actually, I've converted my wife too. She went sort of begrudgingly because I started with this sort of the razor acquisition, and she just looked at me like I was a lunatic. But she has since started doing it, and she never really talks about it. But I definitely noticed certain Pro Razor tubes are getting smaller and smaller.
Yes, you have to hide your favorites. That's what I've learned. She caught the bug a little, and it's interesting to observe it from the outside. She's got like 4 Lady Gillettes of all different colors now, and and then again, I'll put my whatever shaving puck I'm using that day is moved over to the tub now, or it's like I have to find it or hide it. I don't want to say too loud where I've hidden stuff because she might be listening.
That's
right
true.
now.
The good stuff is well secured, though, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. So you got to be a little weary sometimes when you're converting them. It sounds like a great idea at the time, but you're gonna start missing some stuff, or it's gonna run out faster. But they will be more open to you ordering stuff to the rad once they succumb to it as well.
Which is that she's definitely been a little bit more forgiving for me in my purchases, and that's up. And I mean, as you guys are too, I'm sure I've converted half the people around me in this office to it as well, which has been, everybody looked, because it's always that awkward. So what is it you're making? What are those things on your Facebook page? And they're looking at you like you're from Mars. And I'm like, all right, well, here's the whole speech. It's, it starts with the razor, you get the soap, and trust me, you'll never go back. And they look at you.
Yep.
Sometimes they walk away and they come back a week later. What was that thing you're talking about again?
Funny, I've done the same thing to many people, Ryan being one of them.
Oh, dude, He got me hard. He held me fast. Yeah,
I've actually reconnected with a very, very old good friend of mine. One of my best friends growing up. We haven't he doesn't live that far from me, but, again, sort of that bringing people together thing. We reconnected recently, and we found a common bond in this. He wasn't into it, but I gave him his birth year Gillette Slim Adjustable, and that when we saw him, and boy, did that guy get hooked hard.
Yes.
He was in a brush acquisition disorder. His wife doesn't like me so much anymore, but me and him now, we've spent many a weekend just going out, hitting antique malls, hanging out now, which is great. It's nice to reconnect like that.
Yeah, no, and it's a great way to do it because it's something you can really connect on, and something you can. The learning curve is really it's not there really. I mean, it's something guys can talk about without sounding weird, and it brings people together. And that being said, how can you tell there's a wet shaver at a party?
I don't know.
He tells everybody.
Yeah, that's probably true. Even though, but that's true. Like I'm at the point though, and you guys probably know where it's good. You want to tell people. I want to tell people about this because it's just so awesome. It's going to change your life. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm going to get those awkward looks again. Damn.
I started stifling myself. I'm just like they'll find it, and then when they finally do, they'll be like, oh my gosh, Ryan had this podcast for months or years at that point, whatever it is. Like, that's what he was talking about or not talking about, as the case may be, right? Yeah, it's too easy to gush.
I take it a little personally sometimes. I mean, sadly enough, the one guy who I haven't been able to convert fully is my brother. I mean, and he's probably the guy I really wanted to get this more than anybody else. But I gave him a nice slim. I gave him a brush. I had made matching brush and bowl. And it just wasn't his thing. Mind you, I watched him shave the first time, and he was like swashbuckling his face. And I was like, you really should. He was doing, Mach 3 approach to a DE
Yes.
blade. And I said, you should slow down, no pressure. No, I got this.
Is he older?
Yeah, he's about 5 years older than me. So there's probably that younger brother doesn't know what he's talking about part of thing. But
as with anything, converting your family about anything, be it politics, be it whatever, they're always the hardest to convert. It's easier to do it with friends.
Yeah, that's what I've sort of taken a laid back approach to it now. I don't really, he's the one guy I don't talk to about it a whole bunch. But, with that said, he seems to have a real love for the woodworking I'm doing, just not the wet shaving part of it, sadly. Yeah.
There's an expression it's from the Bible. It says, a prophet is not without respect, except in his hometown.
That's actually very applicable here. That's good, yeah.
Jesus said it, actually.
Jesus.
Give him props. Man who needed a good shave, for sure.
Yeah, God. I was just going to make a wood joke, but I'll hold back on that.
I can say that these days I'm planning my vacations a lot around where are good wet shaving parts of the world to go to. Like, it is a goal of mine. It is on my bucket list now that someday before I die, I'm going to go to London and I'm going to plant my ass in the barber's chair at Trumpers and, Trueford Hill and Tobbs. I want to get it's those historic, especially because they look, lots of woodworking inside. Yeah. But Trumpers, you've seen the video on YouTube of the guy getting a shave at Trumpers. That just took heaven to me. Looks great. Yeah.
I'll go visit Ian at the Village Barber.
Is he in, where's he at? Is he
I believe
he's up north.
He's up north, yeah. But make it part of your trip.
Yeah, definitely.
We gotta write that because Ian is. I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, we're gonna tell you exactly.
I'll bring it to you.
Have you guys had fairly good luck with barbershop straight shaves?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I have yet to get one. There's a guy not far from me who does one. A barbershop in Waterloo called Maurizio's, and he's got a really nice look to it. He's an Italian barber, obviously, at least according to his sign on the door, anyways. But I see so many mixed reviews of people who go in and they get butchered. So I'm like, I really just should pull the trigger and go do that.
Yeah, at least try it out. I mean, there's nothing like a straight razor shave from a barber, that knows what he's doing.
Yeah. It's the knows what he's doing part that worries me.
Yeah. One that knows what he's doing, you won't probably have to shave for like 3 days after the fact,
Which I think is an unfortunate side effect with the growing popularity of this. I think, 5 years ago, most of the barbers around here, nobody did straight razor shaves. Now I'm seeing barbers who have been there for years are suddenly offering it. I'm like, you guys didn't used to do that. Did you just decide it was going to work and, picked up a balloon and tried it once? And
yeah. They got the certificate.
Yeah. Mail order.
Yeah, be wary of that.
Certificates. That's kind of scary. I mean, it's scary already that we're applying sharpened steel to our face, even if, ourselves and carefully And then you have somebody else who's never met you before that just, learned how to hold a straight razor or whatever, and he's applying that to your face. And that, man, I don't know if that certificate hanging on the wall is protection enough for my taste.
I have a lot of respect for the straight edge community. I don't use a straight edge as a rule. I'm a DE user, but I do have a love for my, I've got a CJB Camisori, and my third pass I always do around my nose and my mouth with that. But with that said, I have one scar only from wet shaving, and it was from that CJB. I was doing it, and I think one of my daughters snuck up behind me and yelled boo. And
distraction.
Yep.
Now, how long have you been using one of those for? That seems to be like all the rave right now.
I've had that razor for about 6 or 8 months now, and I really love it. I don't use it on my whole face, so I'm not a fan of it on my neck because like most people, my neck's my most sensitive area, and I can never seem to get the closeness I need with it. But on areas where I have, I'm more forgiving, my cheeks and around my mouth especially, it's the best, the absolute best. I can get as smooth and as clean as possible with that CJB in every little nook and cranny. I love that part for that. But it's sort of the last pass, and just around those areas I use it for.
Now, do you see yourself going to a straight razor soon after this?
So like all things, I have a bunch of straights in my garage that I've been restoring because it's more woodworking and whatnot. Scales. So I can definitely see myself dabbling in it. I'm not sure. The one part of it that I just can't seem to get an affinity to is the sharpening, the honing, the stropping. I think that's an art form in itself. For sure. I know one of the guys in my office here who's also a passionate wet shaver. He's a straight user, and he loves that part. He loves stropping. He loves honing. And I'm not sure I have that. Maybe I finally hit my limit of, acquisition disorders. But I certainly, one thing I do love about them is the beauty of them, the workmanship and the especially the really old, big, wedge steel blades. They're just beautiful. And the downside is everybody else is starting to realize how good they are. I used to see those blades at antique markets practically being given away in excellent condition. Now they're $100, $200, and it's tough.
I know that really is the downside. That there's less razors in the wild. There's some tips I want to give people on what to pick up now, but at the same time, it's like going to shopping in the Salvation Army with someone that has the same taste as you. Like, hey, what's that over there? You grab the shirt and run. So I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah. No, one of the saddest things ever. I mean, like I said, with my friend Darren, we still go around to these antique markets, but I mean, I would hit every Salvation Army thrift shop in the area saying, do you have old DEs? And it always just brings a tear to my eye. I went to this one around here and they said, oh, we get those. We throw those out. Those can't be restored. You can't clean those. And I'm like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Please.
Did you give him your number? I always write my number.
She absolutely refused to even consider it. She said the woman was almost, she was ornery about it. She was like, nope, they're health hazards and they can't be cleaned. And I'm like, oh, okay.
There was some history there. There was some personal story.
Yeah, something happened
it's like
there.
Doug and the term entrepreneur. She had that same reaction to DE razors, maybe.
She says that, and in my head, all I can picture is her throwing out Darwins and toggles and things like that. I'm like, ugh. But in reality, it's probably Bics and hopefully.
Yeah. One can only hope. No, it's funny. It's funny this stuff. I mean, I'm getting into straight razor shaving now too. I have yet to do it. I just sent off my razor to Lynn Abrams, and he will have that soon, probably within the week, and then I'll be getting that back. As Ryan is also entering the world of wedge, he beat me here, folks. He was the guy. We had doubts about it from the get-go if Ryan was actually going to pick one up, but not only did he pick it up and have Lynn restore it, he's been using it, and he's doing it.
So are you guys old friends from your youth, or did you meet in this community?
Now we are.
Now,
yeah. No, Ryan and I, how long has it been, Ryan? It's been about...
I think it all started in June.
6 months?
7 months ago,
Yeah. I interviewed Ryan, and we hit it off. And
Can I tell the story this time? No.
Yeah.
We have never told the story, I don't think, actually. It's
It's
like you get married or whatever, and people, so how'd you meet? And it's like, hey, it's your turn, honey. It's just like, no, this time is your turn.
Yeah, you tell the story. I'll cut in
the story. I don't think. I hope we haven't.
I'm all ears.
Do you want to hear it?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
I made a film. I'm a filmmaker, if you didn't know. Podcasting is absolutely new to my life. I insisted to Doug when this came up that I was not the right person for the job, but he kept assuring me that for that very reason I was. So whatever. It is what it is. Here we are recording a podcast at this very moment. I'm a filmmaker. I make commercials and I make documentaries. I made a short documentary called Between the Upper Lip and Nasal Passageway that premiered actually 4 years ago, the week of the airing of this podcast, actually. So
yes.
So it's 4 years old, and it did the festival circuit. It won the awards and all that stuff, and it was slightly ahead of the kind of popularity curve, I guess, for mustaches and all that. There was no section at Urban Outfitters yet for mustache band-aids and socks and things like that. So every year since its premiere, and it had at its initial festival run, it keeps on getting discovered by various things. Nick Callanan of the Stash Page and the Mustache Film Festival found it and wants to put it in the festival. This every year something else happens, and the most recent one was Doug finds it, emails me and says, "Hey, this is great. Can I interview you on the website for the film?" I said, "Sure." So we did that. That led to us co-interviewing F. Stone Roberts and his film Splitting Hairs. So we did that. And then Doug is like, "Hey, dude, you got this feature film, Circle the Wagon, that's in festivals right now. Can I see that and do a review for that?" And so I was like, "Don't you review like shaving stuff?" He's like, "Yeah, wouldn't it be cool if I did your movie?" And I was like, "Sure, okay, let's do the movie." So he did that. And then he's like, dude, Ryan, I've got the idea. Let's start a podcast together. And I was like, "Sure, Doug, let's start a podcast. Why not?"
Yeah, he committed like that, though. And I just had to backtrack here. We interviewed F. Stone Roberts, the filmmaker, together over the phone. So that was my first like over the phone interview. Usually I do it via email and whatnot. So we were hearing each other's voices and like asking the questions. And it was really, it sounded like a podcast after I was transcribing it after the fact. So that's what really put that kernel in my mind. Like, oh, podcast, that's level 2. I'm sorry, go on.
Well, that's really the end of the story. It sounds like this long process, but really all those things took place. I could probably go back through my email and find out, but all that stuff took place probably within 6 or 8 weeks or something. I mean, really fast.
Yet another happy wet shaving relationship has been born.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's in the same spirit, just like suddenly here we are doing this.
I mean, to Doug's credit, after he said, let's do this podcast, in my mind I was thinking, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. That's going too far, but whatever, I'm game, And to his credit, like,
there's no going too far in this hobby. There is no going too far.
No,
yeah. I mean,
just when you think you've done it, you go over that line and hey, we've set the bar higher.
We're way beyond it now. So
yeah. What's next is the documentary, people. It's going to happen.
Well, clearly you've got somebody there with the skills to do just that very thing. So
yes, I'm working on them.
Awesome.
Actually, dude, when I did the short, when I did the mustache short, I had a friend who's a cinematographer. He watched it. He's actually in it. If you've seen the short, he's the one that is kind of the main character throughout. And then he goes down to the mustache at the end. The last shot of the film is of him saying, "All right, I think I'm set," something like that.
Oh, yeah.
His name's Lawson. When I did the short, it was getting all these awards and stuff. He was like, "Dude, you got to do a feature of this film." And it was never even...
it wasn't there.
Just wasn't there. I was just like, you know what?
Yeah.
How can I talk about a mustache for an hour and a half? I just talked about it for 10 minutes. It felt too long,
Yeah, no, you just got to get in the right mindset, Ryan. But strangely enough, you can, and you can talk about wet shaving as we do for probably 5 hours a day at least.
Some would say too long.
Yes. But your wife will make you turn it off eventually.
Sooner or later.
We're not making friends with the wives out there in the wet shaving world. They now have to listen to our voices in the car when they're with their husbands and boyfriends.
I have actually converted 2 women in my office to wet shaving. Not even wives or girlfriends. 2 non-related women in this office are wet shavers.
It might even be easy to do it that way. And that's what's great, too, is it's catching on with the women folk, too. As Matt was talking about last week, as I've talked about before, like it's happening. And that's great, It's a great. Yeah. But remember, again, hide your good stuff.
The one girl who works with me in my office, Lisa, she had, on my recommendation, picked up a really nice Gillette Pink Lady, the long handle.
Yes.
And she was really loving it. She's using one of my brushes, and she's loving it. And then she went on a trip to see, I think it was Macklemore in Detroit or something, and she left it in the hotel room. The razor. She was devastated. She got on the phone and called them, and she says, they're not going to know what I'm talking about. Like, I left the razor behind. Normally people just throw it in the garbage, but she's trying to explain it to them, and luckily it turns out she actually had it.
They did. They held on to it.
No, she actually ended up packing it somewhere, didn't realize it. But the funny thing is the thought of not having it was too much for her. She went and bought another one that day.
Yes,
on eBay.
yes.
So now she's got 2 Lady Gillettes. So
that's how it's, and that's just justifying the beginning of a collection right there. I doubt that even happened.
That's a good point. I should conveniently lose my entire display case.
Yeah. No, that happens. It's amazing how fast you can justify these things. So what do we have to look forward to, Rob, in your world?
So I want to do, like I said, I'm really looking for a good source for the razor head. So if anyone listening to the podcast can reach out to me, I've one of the things I want to do is I really want to stress the quality. So I've been in touch with a lot of razor makers and knot makers in China and India, and I've had samples from some. And unfortunately, most of the stuff I get back from India is just subpar. The plating is terrible. The heads don't even line up. But as far as razors go, I found a good supplier for knots. I'm happy with that. But I'd like to do more sort of matching wood razor sets, and finding those heads is a key part of that. I'd also, at some point, I'd love to get a metal lathe and start doing some really nice razor handles in metal. There's a different skill set needed for that, but I'm definitely up for learning a new skill. But you guys are probably familiar with some of the handles. Coon Cat Bob, do you know that guy? Unfortunately,
yes.
He was that guy. Talk about an artist. That guy was amazing, and he's
been doing it for a while though. Yeah. He comes from that industry.
Yeah, it's definitely a learned skill set. But I figure that's a good chunk of the fun, learning it, having fun with it. So, some point of metal lathes in my future. Definitely, judging from the reaction of the Game of Thrones things, I'll probably be doing a bunch of those in the short term for sure. I actually have 4 actual Game of Thrones pins coming. One for the Targaryen Stark, Baratheon, and what's the other family? Targaryen Stark, Baratheon, and Lannisters. So I have 4 of those pins coming, and I'm going to do a matching Game of Thrones brush set. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I thought it'd be cool to do a really cool set, and then maybe do it as a big giveaway. I had some really good success doing a giveaway before Christmas. Got a lot of interest, and I thought that would be awesome. People go crazy for a 4-brush Game of Thrones set.
So in Game of Thrones, there's 4.
There's the 4 main families. There's a bunch of other ones.
Okay.
Are you guys? If you should watch that show if you're not fans of it.
I watched the first season years ago, or I guess 3 years ago, and I just kind of then Battlestar Galactica happened to me, and I just can't go back now. That screwed up my life, sent me back in therapy maybe. But no, well, that's interesting because again, going back to chess and Game of Thrones, the original word for chess is, let's see, I think it's chaturanga, which might be Hindi, means 4 divisions.
Oh. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm just trying to blow minds today, and I enjoy chess. But but that's wonderful because your pieces really do. I mean, I guess it's just natural to a shaving brush that they will resemble chess pieces.
I have actually given some thought to doing a nice chess set as well. I definitely will probably have. I love making unique things. So making a row of pawns, I'll have to, try to
mustaches. They're gonna have mustaches.
Yeah, I'll have to come to terms with making, one piece match another piece. But I think that would be a nice, fun project as well.
That would be great. Yeah. That would be great.
I just, because I work in a visual medium, I just have to describe to our listeners what I'm seeing right now. We're on Skype and we're on video Skype. And I want to say that Robert is one of, if not the most, he just strikes me as a guy who's so excited about all these things we're talking about. And I love that. The grin on his face. I mean, he's so into this. There's no artifice here. And I just had to state that on this show because it's kind of the defining attribute of this conversation to me, and why I'm sitting here just grinning the whole time. I'm just like, yes, Robert, preach it, brother, preach it, brother. It's great.
It's true. I mean, it's definitely a passion for me. I mean, everybody has things they get and have fun with. This is, and I think it came at a time in my life where I kind of needed it. I'm certainly in good health. Everybody around me is in relatively good health, but I felt like at 42, early midlife, whatever you want to call it, I needed some sort of other creative outlet. And so it's been, for me, a very Zen-like experience. It's very bad I like to think it's been good for my health, though. I can't say it was bad before that. Plus, there's something to be said, again, in a house full of 3 women, couple hours in a quiet garage cannot be overstated. It should, any of you guys out there who have this, trust me, get a tool, get something that keeps you in the garage, and your marriage will thrive.
Yeah, exactly. Robert, were you a Cub Scout?
No, I was a beaver. I don't know if you know what a beaver is, do you?
Oh, you're in Canada.
Yeah, in the Canadian sense, I might add. Yeah, Canadian was like our beavers are sort of junior Cub Scouts, and I went through being a beaver, but after that, I kind of dropped out of it. I've had a really kind of interesting past of career. I often tell people the stories, and they go, "Wow, man!" It's like so. I mean, for the longest time, I was a working musician. So I played in a band and traveled around, and then I backpacked around Europe for a while. Came full circle, and then in my mid-20s, I went back to school and sort of wound up in the career path I'm in now. But
nice. Well, a beaver, I mean, they chew wood, right?
That's right, yeah. There you go. Another thing I never thought of.
Yeah, it's all coming together. I just wanted to ask, did they do Pinewood Derby up there?
I'm not familiar with that.
The wooden race cars, you all take on each other.
I think they call them soapbox derbies here. Maybe the same, which they build go-karts kind of thing, little go-karts?
No, this is tiny. This is like they have a track you put them on.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that.
Okay. I could just see you kicking ass in a Pinewood Derby competition.
You know, it's funny. I think it might be a genetic thing because my brother, who I mentioned earlier, and our whole family, we all tinker, we dabble. Like my brother, he builds and flies remote control helicopters and planes, and this guy's amazing. Like when the zombie apocalypse comes, I'm rounding up my brother, and we're gonna go north, and we're gonna outlast everybody. I'm telling you.
Go south, man. The weather's better down there.
The zombies don't like it in the warmth.
No, you can see them too. You know,
that's true.
You can see a zombie coming at you in the desert.
Yeah, definitely a tinkering kind of family, though.
No, that's important, and it's pisses other people off.
Hey, the way I look at it, everybody's got something. You know, I think everybody, and again, like me, maybe if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't have gotten into. Maybe I would have gotten into some other hobby, but I kind of like to think this was a natural. This was meant to happen.
Progression.
Yeah, natural progression. It was meant to happen. But I think for everybody, maybe it comes when you're 20, you find what you're doing. Maybe it comes when you're 60, 65, when you retire. Yes. I like to think everybody sort of finds a purpose or something in their life at some point.
It's true. I don't think William Burroughs began writing until he was like 36 or something like that as well. Now, you like me and find yourself lost in a hardware store for like 3 hours?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That pisses people off.
That can happen because my brain will start spinning with
the possibility.
Yeah. Oh, you asked me earlier about what's coming next. One of the things that's been...
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we're coming back in. One of the things that I've been planning on making almost since the beginning is, because I started with rad. Lots of very old. I've got some like a beautiful double ring, but a terrible case, which is pretty common. I think, especially with those old, they fall apart. I want to build some in my mind, absolutely beautiful razor display boxes, and I want to actually try to duplicate.
Finally, someone's going to do that. Thank you.
Like specific, I have the plans in my head, but I'm lacking a couple tools. They're coming this spring. Like I want to get a really nice dovetailing jig, and I need a planer, I need a joiner, a few other things that are sort of good for making nice square. So I don't do it halfway. It's going to be good. When I do it, it's going to be good. And in my head, it's fantastic. But so I want to duplicate some of those older, try to actually replicate the original double ring box itself. So that's one of the ones. Make a nice replica so it looks like almost brand new, and as well as a multi-razor case, tailored to fit. That should be nice.
What I'm looking for, just to get this out there now, because I probably will be your first customer, not only do I want the display case for the entire collection, but I also want a single holder for just one razor, my razor of the day, like no one's doing that really, like not with style, and just to hold the razor I'll be using tomorrow.
There's been a number of people who've done that, and I've given that some thought myself. Well, and I've given it some thought too, because I haven't seen one that I really like yet. The ones I've seen have been blocks of wood with a hole drilled in them, and they look nice, but it's again not the detailing I'd like.
It's more utilitarian. Yeah. I'm talking about a piece of art about the size of a light switch panel, whatever, that is mounted on my wall, beautifully done, and I can just put my,
I'm thinking the Apple of shaving gear. That's what it's got maybe a little less aluminum or wood, but, definitely more of a thing of beauty as well as functionality.
Yeah, exactly. Just like some of these vintage pieces that we're already working or buying and whatnot. I want that same magic, and something that's going to last for 50 years from now. So people are going to be paying way too much for it on eBay.
Yeah. It's funny. People often ask me, because I make all these brushes, they go, "You must have 1,000 brushes." And I have 3 brushes. I have, aside from the original bore brush I had, which I don't count, the Omega one, I have one of the very first wood brushes I made, Simpson's Berkeley, and one snakewood brush I made. Other than that, those are the only 3 I've used. I don't have a passion to accumulate brushes like I did Rad, but I appreciate them, the beauty of them.
That's interesting. That's like a lot of great musicians out there that you picture them having this huge sound system wall, and a lot of them just have a boombox or listen to music in their car.
They find what they like, and I guess they go with it. But
exactly.
Then again, maybe I'm just waiting, and I'm going to start with Rad next year. That could be next year's thing.
Don't rule this out. Don't ever rule anything out in this world.
It occurs to me in this conversation we're having that there's an acronym that's been left off of your list. There's a set of acronyms that have been left off your list, Doug. Because this is the first time
Razor
hearing
acquisition
about
disorder,
Rad, Bad, Tad, and what I'm wondering is,
Tad is new.
Tad's new.
We just
that one today.
Tad's new. Okay, well you can just put fill in the blank add, and then you have your acronym. But what I'm wondering is, I feel like I'm missing out on a whole aspect of wet shaving here because I have exactly 2 razors, 1 brush. I mean, like. I'm all in though. Like I can't get enough of my red tip. I just picked up a Gillette Tech for nothing at the antique store, and have been kind of comparing 2 razors at once and like.
Well, there's 2 possibilities
display
here.
Cases and what? Like how many razors do you have?
There's 2 possibilities here.
Yes.
One, it's coming. Give it time, it just hasn't creeped in yet. Or 2, you are the actual one guy who found out that wet shaving is cheaper. You are the guy who when people say, "Oh, you're going to save money, it's cheaper," when they say that, they're talking about you. I think the odds are probably against it, and it's coming. So
no, that's the biggest lie ever told. That's how we get people in. But once we do, we just laugh.
As a filmmaker, I'm guessing you probably have a rather elaborate collection of cameras, maybe, or that's some expensive gear there, though. That's the kind of thing where you really don't buy a collection of red ones or something or epics.
No,
or something.
you can't collect cameras. No, I don't. You take these strengths tests. There's various kinds of strengths tests, and one of the things that always comes up for me is called input, and it means like I like to collect things, and I don't collect anything, but except for this way. It says this could mean you collect records, or you collect razors, you collect stuffed animals, whatever, or you collect information, and that's kind of where I come in and why I throw out all these obscure references every show, because I read voraciously, I watch movies every night, like constant input in that way, new thoughts, new literature, that sort of thing. So my collection is one of the mind, not one of the shelf.
Definitely more biological collection rather than
I collect neurons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, you won't be leaving them to me after you die.
Maybe by that time there'll be a way to download all the thoughts and give them to you. After all, you'll have to write into your will who you're going to download your brain to.
Oh, that'd be great. I wouldn't need you to host the podcast anymore with me. I could. Yeah, he's here.
So I'm already looking at my collection of razors, and I have I'm certainly not up there with some of the masters like Mr. Razor or anything, but I have a very nice collection of some of the rarest and nicest DEs in the world. But I sadly have 2 daughters, so I'm already thinking, what am I going to do with these things? I'm kind of thinking ahead, hoping my daughters have sons and that I could. Yeah. I'm going to either do that, or then again, by that time they could very likely fund my retirement if I sell them. But
or your college, they're your daughter's college education or something.
That might be too soon for me to get rid of them. I don't know.
Yeah, hold on to them. We could hold on to them for you.
I was thinking more like after my death, not parting with them before that point. Some of them are certainly, except for the Darwin. I think that one's going to go with me.
Oh, yeah. No, that I was actually recently thinking about that. Like, what will I have in my casket with me? And I'm looking at my collection, like, and you start off with just one. This one will do. And then, and this one. It's like the jerk when he's like leaving, like, all I need is this chair and this dog. And like, I'm a red tip and it
sneaks up on you. It sneaks up on you.
It really does. It really does. Well, Rob, it's been such a great pleasure to have you on board. I know you have to. Your break is almost over, it would seem. So I thank you again for joining us. It's been so much fun talking to you. And where can our listeners find out more about Zen Shave?
Thanks very much for having me. This has been really enjoyable. Really had a good time. I've got a Facebook page, facebook.com/ZenShave. I'm on Twitter /ZenShave as well. I frequently post on Reddit. And anyone who has any questions can email me directly, robcarey@zenshave.com.
And the website is zenshave.com.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I guess my actual website is www.zenshave.com.
Excellent. So be sure to check him out, folks. Rob is a great guy, and we really wish him all the luck in the world.
Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it.
So thank you again, Robert, and we'll have to get you back soon or get you on for some tips or whatnot. But again, great to have you, and thank you, and good luck.
Thanks very much. Anytime.
You have been listening to the Moustache and Blade podcast. Thanks for listening, and please leave us a review on iTunes. Almost clean shaven, but hardly clean cut. Moustache and Blade.